Hi, my name is Maggie, and in this video I will share my experience of third week of training with my new guide dog Wilma. So, as usual, I want to emphasize that I am not a dog trainer and I am a blind person who is learning to work with her new guide dog. Also, for those of you who are new to this channel, I wanted to mention that this is a fourth video about training with Wilma. In the first video, I summarized first 3 days of training, then I summarized first week of training, then a week ago I summarized second week of training, and today I will summarize the third week of training, and there are 5 weeks of training. So we have 2 more to go. And also for those of you who meet me for the first time, I wanted to mention that I live in the UK and my dog is trained by British guide dogs. So I will start sharing my story from last Friday. And last Friday, at the end of the training session, me and the trainer agreed in a lot of details which routes I can do independently and which routes I can practice over the weekend. And because I haven't had a dog for the last 3 years, I was a little bit anxious to go for my first walk, because although we practiced during the second week walking when the trainer was further behind us and not with us, it is a different experience when you know that in the end somebody is watching over you and that in the end somebody will save you. And when you know that you are on your own, you just know that you have to count on yourself and on a dog, right? Of course, public members will help, but not always they are there to help, if that makes sense. So I was a little bit anxious, so I decided to go for our first independent walk in the evening when the streets were quiet. And I picked the harness and I literally walked down the hill. I live like on the top of the hill, so I walked down the hill. There was one road that we had to cross, and then we walked all the way up. And I thought, okay, this is a good start. And it was kind of amazing feeling to be just me and the dog, after 3 years of not having a dog, and to walk without the cane for the first time independently. And yeah, it was just amazing feeling when you feel that, I walk much faster with the guide dog, and for me it is much, this is kind of effortless, if that makes sense. And I just want to emphasize that some people are amazing at walking with the cane. Some people prefer to walk with the cane. So not for everybody this is such a big deal, but for me it is a big deal. And definitely I'm much faster with the dog, and it is for me much easier and much effortless, if that makes sense. So that was our first route. I just wanted to keep it very simple to gain some confidence and also to give Wilma more confidence. And then just before we went to bed, I took Wilma out and she had a poo. So I thought, okay, there is an opportunity to go to the bin to throw this poo away. And I forgot to mention this during the previous video, but we started to teach Wilma to find bins. At the moment, she can find 2 bins in my area, but as the time progresses, she will be able to find any bin. She will be able to utilize this knowledge and kind of make it versatile, and she will be universally finding all of the bins, if that makes sense. So we had to cross 2 roads to find the bin, and they're also at funny angle. So it was really nice to be able to do that. I just thought that this is not very romantic to say that my first independent route was to the bin to throw the poo away, but this is what it was. And the next day, which was Saturday, I practiced the route that I agreed with the trainer. So I went to local supermarket, and then I went to the cafe and then I walk back home, which was like a loop. And that route takes me normally about 30 minutes, but of course I stopped on the way, so it was longer. And during the first half of the route, unfortunately, I made a few mistakes, and I will tell you more details about them. So I was walking and from my house to the supermarket, and I was at the point where I knew that I'm approaching a curb to cross little road, and suddenly Wilma stopped. So I thought she's stopping on the curb. So I praised her, gave her a treat, and only later I realized that somebody is sitting on the pavement with their dog, and Wilma stopped to say hi to this dog, and it wasn't the curb. So then I was kind of beating myself and saying, oh no, I am teaching her wrong things. I just praised her for saying hi to the dog. And anyway, I know that when I make mistakes, when we make mistakes, it is just important to move on. So we moved on, and thankfully we didn't make any more mistakes on that route. We successfully found the supermarket, we did some shopping, and Wilma was very well behaved in the supermarket when I was guided by the shop assistant who helped me to do the shopping. And then we went to the cafe and I had some lunch. For her, for me, of course, for my happiness and for my well-being, but also for her to have purpose. And then we walked back home, and the second half of the walk was textbook. And then in the afternoon, as it was beautiful day, I went to the beach and I had my first swim of the year, which was lovely. And I forgot to mention during my previous videos, but we were also practicing over the last 3 weeks, Wilma staying on her own at home. So when I first got her, I didn't leave her at all for a few days because I didn't want her to be anxious. That was a new place for her. I was a new person to her. So for the first, I think 5 days, I was always with her. And then the first time I left her, it was only for 10 minutes, then for 20 minutes, then for 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And because we worked on that, on Saturday, when I went to the beach, I was able to leave her for 2 hours and she was absolutely fine. And the reason why I don't take her to the beach is that one of my main routes is along the promenade. And because Wilma is still new to me and I'm new to her, our relationship is not well established yet. There is a risk that if I allowed Wilma to swim and go to the beach and play there, she would always prefer that over working, and it wouldn't be easy for her to focus on her work when we walk along the promenade. So probably this year she's not going to go swimming with me. But I'm sure that in the future she will. And because she loves it as well, so I want her to. But at the moment we have to prioritize, our work and developing our work together, if that makes sense. So on Sunday I did the same route. I just reversed it, so I did a grid route, but I first went to the coffee shop, and then I went to the supermarket again for the little shop just to practice. Then we walked home, and then nearly straight after we went to church, but we went to church by taxi. And also the trainer explained to me how to cope with going in a taxi. So guide dogs no longer recommend for the dog owner and for the dog to sit in the front seat where the passenger, next to the driver, because most of the cars have airbags now, and in case of the accident the airbag will open, and because it is at the level of dog's head, it will most likely kill the dog, basically, right? Because the airbag is there to protect the person, but the force of it would just probably severely injure or even kill the dog. So they recommend that people sit in the back. Of course, the person sits on the chair and the person and the dog sits in the footwell. So I entered the car first, then I give the cue to Wilma to follow me, and I encourage her to follow me. Then she sits either in between my legs or next to me, if that makes sense, but in a footwell, of course. And then again, when we leave the car, I leave the car first, and then she follows me. And Wilma has been only once to this church before, and we practiced finding the door to the church from the curb where the taxi normally stops, and to find the back, one of the back pews, and she did it beautifully after being there only once, which is amazing. And she behaved very well, and she was able to guide me out of church after the service as well, to the curb where the taxi picked me up, and it was all perfect. And she was also very patient, which was also amazing. And then again in the afternoon, I left her at home and I went swimming, and I always leave her with something that she can enjoy. So I always leave her with the bone, which is like hollow in the middle, and I stuff this bone with her frozen food so she can lick it out, and she really enjoys it, and then she goes to sleep. And then in the evening we practiced one of the routes again, and we again made a mistake. So what has happened was, I was walking back home, and then two drivers had an argument, and it was so loud that I got a little bit confused and I hesitated, and Wilma stopped, and again I thought that she's stopping on the curb, so again I praised her, and only later on I discovered that actually she's sniffing a scaffolding. So again I was like a little bit annoyed with myself that I made this mistake, and that I praised her for sniffing scaffolding, and I was worried, oh Mag, you teach her wrong things and you break her work. But then, well, I knew that we were not even halfway through the training yet then, so I thought, okay, I just moved on, and it was per textbooks for the rest of the route. And on Monday, when the trainer arrived, I shared with her all of the mistakes I made and all of the things that went well. And Monday morning, we focused on ironing out the mistakes I made over the weekend. So this is basically what we do. Now we have a pattern of days when I do work independently, and then the trainer comes and she helps me to iron out any mistakes that I keep making. And then in the afternoon on Monday, we expanded the route that I can do independently, and we added to my independent route two busy crossings and the shops that are on the other side of this busy road. And I just want to clarify that at the moment, me and Wilma, we only walk on the routes that the trainer teaches us. But in the future, when our relationship is more established and when we have more confidence, we will be able to work on the routes that Wilma doesn't know and on the routes that I don't know. So we will be able to, as long as I know what I want from her, and as long as I know where I want to go, for instance, with the help of GPS, of SatNav, right? Then we can go on the routes that we are not familiar with. But just to begin with, we start with the routes that the trainer shows us before we can generalize this knowledge for routes that we don't know, right? So like with the bin, now Wilma can find two bins, but in the future, she will be able to find any bin. And at the moment, we find only shops that that the trainer shows us, but in the future, as long as I know which shop I want and I can direct her to that shop, we will be able to go to any shop or to any place. So on Tuesday, on purpose, we had a break from work with the trainer, and we practiced this longer expanded route with the addition of these two busy crossings. And luckily, I didn't make too many mistakes. It all went well. Or actually, did I make any mistakes? Or no, I don't think so. So it all went well. So on Wednesday, we added additional parts to this route. So we practiced going to my GP surgery and to few additional shops. And then then in the afternoon after lunch, we left Wilma at home and we went to neighboring town on our own, just me and the trainer. And the reason behind it was that this bigger town has the town center has a little bit confusing layout. So the trainer wanted to familiarize herself with it before we take Wilma there. And also the trainer asked me which points are priority for me in that town. Like, for instance, my workplace, my hairdressers, shopping center. So we can show them to Wilma without any hesitation, because once you show something to her, she will be repeating that. And of course, there is always the way of undoing it, but we didn't want this unnecessary complication. So we wanted to show her straight away what we want from her without any hesitations. So we kind of mapped out the routes that we will be covering over the next 2.5 weeks. And then when we came back from this bigger town, we went to local park, and the trainer said, okay, you're fine, find this park, I'm confident you can do it safely. And she gave me green light to take Wilma there on my own independently. And Wilma also had a little run, which she loved. And then on Thursday, we were planning to work, but unfortunately the lady was unwell, which actually was maybe lucky coincidence because it was raining a lot. Also, I had to catch on some work for my job. But the lady gave us some assignments, so she asked me to practice this extended route, to go to these new shops that we added to my previous route, to go to my GP surgery. And I did that, and luckily I didn't make mistakes. And I always keep in mind the mistakes that I tend to do, which I described in my previous video. I will just mention them briefly. So I normally hang back when I get anxious. I am not going with the dog. So the trainer always says to me, follow her. And I kind of still need to gain confidence in myself and in Wilma. So I was trying to focus on not hanging back, on also not giving her the treats too early before she completes the tasks. And also not praising her before she completes the tasks, like too quickly, because I have tendency to praise her too quickly sometimes. And also I was focusing a lot on making sure that I put my both feet on the up curb after I cross the road before praising the dog, just to get out of the way of cars as soon as possible. So of course I was focused a lot on ironing out these technical issues that I keep having. And on Friday, today, we practiced the route from my little town where I live to this other neighboring town, which is bigger. And the interesting thing is that what seems to be easy appeared to be difficult, because I thought that promenade will be super easy for us, but it isn't, because although it is straightforward, it is wide, there is no cars, there is many distractions for Wilma. There is seagulls, there is children playing, there is food, there is other dogs. Of course, she has swum in the sea before, so she has this temptation. So because it is the wide route and many unexpected obstacles there, I have to be focused, and she has to remain focused as well, despite all of these obstacles. And then we practice some few routes in the bigger town, in the town center. And this town center, as I probably mentioned, has a funny layout. The roads are at funny angles, so it's not straightforward, it's not 90 degrees crossings. There are the roads are at different angles, there are some triangles, whatever, this is not kind of straightforward. And the biggest crossing in the town center is in a shape of 5-arm star. So it is it can be quite confusing, and this is big open wide crossing, so we have to slowly build which roads I take there, and we slowly build up on my skills. So today we covered one shop, one restaurant, and another shop which sells like chemical stuff and electrics and all sorts of things. And then next week we will cover the other side of this town, but we will be building it up slowly, not to create confusion for Wilma. And at the end of the training day, that was actually a long session because it is over 2 kilometers to walk even to this town center. So that was a long route, and we just did one route today. And that took us most of the working day, to be fair. And at the end of the day, we agreed what I'm going to practice over the weekend, and we agreed that I will focus on the promenade because at the moment this is probably most challenging part. And I also have permission to go to this big neighboring town. So basically what I was able to do last Friday progressed massively, because last Friday I was just able to do one route with few variations, and now I can do most of my neighboring area, and I can even go to this neighboring town and to do tiny bit of that, which is amazing. And before I finish today, I just wanted to share kind of maybe emotional side of it. So I personally don't like these slogans that, when they have this like slogans that something is life changing or whatever, I just think that it's a bit soapy, or I don't know, exaggerated. But I this week truly experienced that guide dogs do change lives of blind people, because for me it is a massive change. What was a big deal for me with the cane now isn't with Wilma, and this is amazing. So just to give you an example, before I had Wilma, when and after I lost Bob, when I had to go to the shop, I was always like planning it carefully. When do I go? When do I go? How much time do I have to do it? When is the best time to go? What do I buy not to go again? And now I just don't care. When I need something, I just go without thinking twice about this. And this is amazing. And this is just like one silly example, but everything is so effortless and so quick and easy that simply this is amazing. And I'm very happy and very grateful. And I'm going to practice, what I agreed that I will practice this weekend. And I also hope that there will be lovely weather. And just to sum up, the second half of training, which is 3 weeks, which is about building skills, is mainly about me practicing independently and seeing what difficulties I encounter, and then the trainer helps me to iron out these difficulties and mistakes that I tend to make, and we also build on additional skills. And I will update you next week, and cross your fingers for us as usual. Bye bye.